So many of our customers, what they wanted is, technology, they took it for granted, right? And there were also other competitors. What really made a difference is the trust they have on us that we will help them navigate the uncertainty, the hype that happened in the late 90s and early 2000s, right? And Cisco even created a team. When I joined Cisco, started in one of those teams, Internet Business Solutions Group. The whole point was to help on the business side our customers to really realize the value of becoming digitally business, internet, and so on, right? So now it feels to me like a deja vu. We are also talking about AI is going to transform everything, business, our lives. Every day you hear something different. I was watching, I love music. I was watching this expert YouTuber talking about how AI composed songs differ from human songs, right? And of course, they are not to the level that you expect on creativity, but you just fast forward 5-10 years and will really be transformational. Even when you think of the basics, it already does it extremely well. So we all know this is going to happen. But again, back to when I talk to my friends in other multinationals or partners, the first question they ask is, what use cases should I be looking at, right? And so it is exactly the same question I was hearing years back when we started the first revolution of the internet, right? So that's why I think Cisco has a unique position, right? We are right now implementing AI in multiple fronts. We launched a data center that was done at 80% faster than normally gets done. Customers want to know about that. Again, they'll buy our stuff, but they'll say, well, can you also help me to figure out that out? So that's why I'm really excited on what we can contribute to the AI revolution.
So as you mentioned, Cisco helped to guide major technology shifts such as the internet back in the 90s. So what do you think is the difference now in Cisco's involvement in developing AI infrastructure?
One of the things that I found different from the internet and today is two things, right? The internet, quite quickly you could see economies of scale building up. Some big players become bigger and bigger, right? And many fear that in AI, is going to be the same, right? I just don't think it's going to be the same for a number of reasons. First of all, in AI, what you're going to see is much more diversification of models. Everybody now is familiar with the consumer type of large language models, right? The ChatGPTs, Perplexities, Grok, and so on. That's just the tip of the iceberg. The real opportunity on AI is on the data that companies like Cisco have, right? Or any of our customers have tons of data that they have not made public for very good reasons. Safe, security, trust. The real revolution is when that data starts getting used. And what you're going to have, and the difference with the internet, is that is very specific for an enterprise, for a vertical, for example, in manufacturing. What you're going to get from AI is very different from what you get in finance or in retail. It's going to be much more verticalized. And the second aspect you have is data sovereignty, right? Many countries have concerns about the data moving outside their borders. So that's gonna drive a need for having more localized AI clusters, right? So yes, it's similar as I was saying before, but it's also very different. I think in a way it's much more inclusive, if I use that word, than the internet was, that clearly create economies of scale very rapidly for a few players. I think in AI, you're going to see multiple players by sector, vertical, country, language, and that's what Cisco also can help. We have that diversity inside our sales teams. We are in every country. We understand how things are done locally and so on. So relationships already established with many of these customers are a good asset to leverage on for the future.
I have a question more around the underlying infrastructure. So you talked about how we were one of the first ones to build a foundation for internet. Now we're building a new foundation for AI era. So how important and how critical is the underlying infrastructure in building the AI, and especially at a large scale?
To put it simply, most people don't care about the infrastructure. They just expect it to be there. But when you speak with executives and customers, the first thing they'll ask you is security, right? If I'm going to have my data, as I mentioned before, 80% of the opportunities still residing within enterprises. If they're going to start using models come from outside, or your data goes outside, they want to be sure that's going to be extremely safe. A data breach these days can be the end of business or career or trust by customers. So that to me is a number one thing that has to be there. And it's not really spoken so much, right? It's almost like the rush to get AI as much as possible, fast and quickly, without considering how important for our customers is the security of the data, which is the same as personal people. You are probably concerned about what data you put in any of these models, right? The second one is that for us to have proper AI, you need very fast connectivity. Everybody is very familiar with the GPUs, the processing, but do you have a processing unit connected to another processing unit, not necessarily in the same data center? So the speed of connectivity becomes paramount. Cisco, again, very strong there. And that has not only to be a fast speed, but also low latency, i.e. that there's no real interruption, that it's almost instant. Cisco has been the leader in low latency routers, right, for many years. So you put security, you put high speed, high capacity router switches, and then you put the low latency. That to me is a must-have. Now, on top of that, if you are operating all of these, you must have visibility of what's going on, right? If something fails, if an application is not responding with the proper time, you have some complaints from customers that something seems to be down. If you are in charge of that infrastructure for your company, you better be sure that you identify very quickly where the problem is. And I will even add that, walking the talk here, if we think that AI is going to really change how we run businesses, couldn't you have systems, at Cisco we call it agentic ops, right, that actually do all these things for you behind the scenes and prevent the problem to start with? So you put it all together. Yes, you must have the data, you must have the models, that's what everybody sees, right? Then you see the processing, that's what everybody hears about. But then you must have the connectivity, you must have the low latency, you must have the security, and you must have the observability to be able to manage AI properly.
Nando, following up on what you mentioned earlier, how does Cisco help companies navigate these trust and sovereignty concerns regarding AI infrastructure?
I mean, we obviously operate in every country following the rules and also the concerns of the countries. I was recently in the summer Davos in Tianjin, and in an ASEAN session where there was, it was very interesting because there was a combination of politicians, ministers of different ASEAN countries. There was some technologies, some startups, and then some multinationals like Cisco. And it was very obvious to me that as much as everybody wants to have AI in their countries and they want to use it for the public good, right, healthcare, the things that normally governments really take care of, they also very concerned about, is my data moving from this country to this other country? And then, I don't know. So I left with the impression, what I was saying before, that we must have actually that kind of sovereignty approach. And it's also, somebody in one of the sessions brought up the difference, depending on the language you use. We knew this in the internet as well. If you Google in your own language, my language is Spanish or Catalan, you don't get the same depth of resource that you do it in English, right? With AI, it's even worse. There's a lot of concerns about having language, and one of the panelists there that was sitting next to me, he is actually a researcher at MIT, and he was saying that there is ways to increase the accuracy on different languages if you understand really the grammar, the linguistics, semantics. So that to me means that there is hope to make this really very doable, to make those sovereignty approaches to AI real. So that's one aspect that to me is critical. The other one is the one I mentioned by verticals, right? You're going to have very specialized agents based on the vertical you are or the function. If you are in sales operations strategy like I am, ChatGPT is not really my help. But if I have my own predictive models and I have some language model that can combine it with other data from external that shows me best in class on, for example, predictability or forecast, that will be very useful to me. But that's a very a verticalized approach, right? Today, what we have seen, again, is nothing of this. We're just at the very beginning, right? So we need to show a little bit of patience. But again, I think Cisco is uniquely equipped to go through this, understanding those concerns and actually be sure that when we do it, it does become something that is inclusive, right, to all.